And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Smith versus Smith. Step forward.
60-year-old singer Myrna Smith is suing her daughter-in-law, 33-year-old computer specialist Candy Smith, for an unpaid loan to hire an attorney.
Mrs. Smith, the defendant is your daughter-in-law.
Yes, she is.
According to your complaint, there came a time when your daughter-in-law needed some money. She needed some money for an attorney because she was going to be involved in a custody dispute with her former husband. You have 2 children from your prior
Correct.
marriage, and you loaned her the money,
Yes.
$5,000, and it is your claim that she has not repaid you.
She has not repaid.
And your daughter-in-law believes that she has the right to offset that money, and she's going to explain that to me. When did you make this loan?
I made the loan May 1st, 2000.
Do you have the canceled check?
Yes.
Can I see it, please?
And this is also my statement.
Okay, what was your agreement with regard to repaying this loan?
She told me what she would do would, on her pay days, she would deposit money into my account. However, that did not happen. So finally I went through my son and I asked when she would start making the repayments, and she decided that she would make the payments, but she wanted to put them into my savings account instead of my checking account. And I felt she had no right to know what was in my savings account. And she was very inquisitive about my money and how it was spent.
Okay, and as of today's date, you have received no money from this
No.
$5,000. And you acknowledge that, but for your defense, you did not repay this money out of paychecks or anything else.
No.
Okay, now I'll hear your defense.
Actually, what happened was that at this time, when we had moved into the house, she had given
What
me...
house?
We had purchased a house together. She had actually sold her previous residence, and she had used the down payment to purchase a house so that we all can live together, and we were sort of helping each other out.
And help yourselves as well.
Right, and help
All right, so
ourselves.
what was the arrangement? She put the down payment on this new house.
Correct.
How much was the down payment on the new house?
$100,000.
She put down the $100,000 on a house that you were all living in together.
Correct, and it was under my husband's name.
Was there a mortgage on this house?
Yes, there was.
How much was the mortgage?
$185,000.
And I gather from your papers that you and your husband make the mortgage payments.
Correct.
How much were the mortgage payments?
$1,703.
$1,703. And how many people from your family, you and your husband, you have a child together?
Yes, we have 1 child together and 2 children from my previous marriage.
So there are 5 of you all together.
Correct.
And how many people, other than your mother-in-law, were living in the house?
The grandmother and also the uncle.
Grandmother or uncle paying any money towards the house?
He needs to answer. I can't answer.
Step up. Mr. Smith, how much money was your uncle paying to the house?
My uncle was scheduled to pay $400 a month, but unfortunately that rarely happened.
What about your grandmother?
No, nothing.
Okay. How many months did you live in the house?
If include January, 8 months.
How many mortgage payments did you make? Because that's your defense to this action. How many mortgage payments did you personally make?
Roughly 8 months.
You have proof of those payments?
Show her proof that you were paying mortgage.
What is that?
This is the household account that my son and I had to make payments for anything regarding the house. This is how our bills were paid.
Can I see? And I'll see your checks for the mortgage payments.
That, unfortunately, that I do not have. I didn't know that was going to come into question.
You have a bill, though, right?
I have a bill.
No, I don't need a bill. I need the mortgage payments. Your defense, Mrs. Smith,
Right.
is that it wasn't working out and the house was going to be sold, wasn't working out with all you folks living together, and your mother-in-law insisted that the deed be turned back to her. It was, and you believe that you can set off the number of mortgage payments that you made on the house against the $5,000 that you owe her. That's your defense.
No,
in a
not
nutshell.
exactly. Not
Well,
exactly. I'm sorry. Can I clear this up? Okay, my defense is that because of some illegal activities that took place, we had no other choice but to move.
No. I don't want to hear that.
Yes, we had to move out of the house within 2 weeks. We had told her we were selling the house because of what was going on. With the money that we had, we had to actually use a lot of money to leave the house when we shouldn't have had to leave the house.
Is that your defense?
We shouldn't have to.
Just a second. Is that your defense?
Well, yes.
That because of what you perceive to be some illegal activity that was going on in the house, you chose to move which was a very good judgment, and you believe that your mother-in-law owes you money, the money that you had to spend to find a new place.
Right. That is included with the money that we spent with the mortgage. This is all tied together.
Well, so I'm going to eliminate your first defense. Your first defense is no defense. Now let's get to the mortgage payments that you say you made. Do you have any other checks?
And the only checks that I would use for the mortgage payments was the household account.
Okay, and who put money into the household account?
It was my wife, myself, and then my mother.
And your mother?
Yes.
Well, how much money did you put into the
And my brother.
Just a minute. How much money, and the $400, and how much money did you put into the account every month?
$1,900 a month I put into that account.
Now, my next question to you is the house was sold.
Actually, my son went and got a $20,000 loan that I didn't know about.
Loan for what? Against the house?
Yes.
Did you get a $20,000 loan against the house?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
Did you pay it back?
I didn't have an opportunity to.
No, did you pay it back?
I was paying the loan back to the people that I got the loan from.
Did you put in any money towards the down payment?
Towards the down payment, no.
So she has $100,000 in the down payment.
Right.
Right.
Right? She has $100,000. You have Zippo. You can't offset. I mean, first of all, you can't offset it anyway, but it's not even reasonable to offset it. Because if your mother goes to sell the house now, there's a $20,000 loan that you took out that's going to be deducted from the sale price of that house. Did you consult with your mother before you took out this loan? Did she say
I didn't
it was
need
okay?
To. I didn't need to. I didn't need her permission on that.
Well, you don't need her permission on this either. You
Well,
owe her $5,000. That's what you owe her. That's what you borrow. That's what you repay. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may stand out of Danilova versus Starry. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young lady, have a seat, please.
Ms. Danilova, it is your claim that the defendant purposely damaged your car by throwing a coffee mug at it,
Yes.
which caused it to dent and something to crack. The defendant says he absolutely did that,
Yes, I did.
and he says he's got a good reason. So I have a few questions to ask you. I gather that you people really don't know each other.
No.
But you live in a house that's in a cul-de-sac, and you have a friend that lives in that cul-de-sac,
Yes.
whom you visit frequently.
Well, not anymore.
Well, you used to.
Yeah.
How old are you?
19.
And you've been told before by people that live on the street that you drive too quickly in this cul-de-sac. Is that a fair statement?
No. Not
Have you
that.
ever been found guilty of driving at an excessive rate of speed?
Yes.
Where?
Freeways, mostly.
How many speeding violations do you have?
Since I had my license.
So I assume that you were driving before you had your license. You're not going to tell me that. You're going to tell me after you had your license. How many speeding violations have you had?
I think like 7.
7.
Yes.
So it wouldn't be beyond a reasonable person's imagination that you drive too quickly in this cul-de-sac. Is that right?
Right.
So why don't you tell me what happened on the day that Mr. Starry threw a coffee mug at your car?
Me and my sister were driving to pick up my friend. As we were driving by Mr. Starry and his friends, I don't know, my windows were up, so all I heard was just a bunch of yelling, and I saw a bunch of people outside on the sidewalks in the street.
So that there were people out there. Were there adults and children?
I saw adults, mostly.
Or maybe you were going too fast to see the children.
No. It's the cul-de-sac that they live in. It's really hard to speed because it's at a curve, and there are cars
Most
parked.
cul-de-sacs are on a curve. That's what a cul-de-sac is. It's a curve. Goes around.
Well,
So you went to pick up your friend, and what happened after you went to pick up your friend?
while we were in her house, some ladies came up to the door, said, you know, she was speeding, you know, slow down, and I acknowledged that.
So you acknowledged that you were going too fast.
Yes,
on that day.
I listened to them.
Why did you do it?
I mean, I wasn't speeding like going 30, I wasn't going over 35 miles an hour.
35 miles an hour is not what you do in a cul-de-sac. Then you left. In the car. You were
Yeah.
driving. Is that right?
Yes.
And what happened?
As we were driving by Mr. Starry, something was thrown at my car, it bounced off, and that's when I stopped the car and got out to see what was going on.
Did you exchange words?
Yes, we did.
What were the words?
Well, he was just yelling at me to, I don't know if I could touch.
Slow down.
He was just yelling and screaming and getting in my face. He didn't say it politely.
Okay, I'll hear you.
Your Honor, on the day in question, I was inside my house when she came into the neighborhood, and my wife and 2 neighbor ladies went to the door and knocked on the door and asked her to slow down. What they reported to me was they laughed and slammed the door in their face. When I heard
That sounds right.
When I heard that, I got irritated. When she backed out of her driveway and screeched her tires to come up the cul-de-sac, without really even any consideration, I stepped out in front of her and threw my coffee cup at her car.
Can I say something about what he said?
Sure.
That car could not screech tires if you tried because it's a Corolla and it was an automatic. When the ladies came up to the door, it was my friend's mother who actually opened the door, and I don't think she would slam the door in their face.
Did you
She
laugh
came
at
up
her?
to us saying, "There's ladies outside saying you guys were speeding." We're like, "Well, okay."
Is that what you said, like, well, okay?
Well, my friend came up to the door to talk to them, and they were just yelling and screaming, saying, "You're speeding, you're speeding."
And you said, well, okay.
I said, "Okay, I understand. You know, what else am I supposed to say?"
Okay. Now, would it be a fair statement that prior to this incident, you would go and pick up your friends pretty often?
Almost daily.
Now, after this incident, would it be a fair statement that you don't go to pick up your friend anymore?
Yes.
Oh,
Shh, 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 just a second.
I'm sorry.
That you don't go there every day anymore. Mm-hmm. And you don't go there every day anymore because you're frightened to go on that street.
No, I don't go on that street anymore because he constantly harasses me. I've had this whole summer.
So that you are frightened to go on that street because he harasses you. And you're afraid what might happen.
Yeah, he's threatened me before.
Not before this incident,
Not
you
before
said.
this incident,
Afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be fair to say that as a result of him throwing a mug at your car, you don't go to pick up your friend anymore.
Yes, you can say that.
So you accomplished your purpose. Is that right? Just answer my question. So you accomplished your purpose. You don't have to worry. Just listen to me. You don't have to worry about her as you did previously.
Now it's that way, Your Honor, but it wasn't that way until after, I would say, June or July.
Fine, but then you've accomplished what you wanted to accomplish. Is
Right,
that
but I
right?
finally had to take her to another court for attempting to run me over in the street.
But now she doesn't come back.
Finally, yes, and I'm happy
Perfect.
with that.
Now, I absolutely think that each of you should bear a certain responsibility with regard to this incident. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
Good. I'm awarding you $1. The rest of it's your fault. That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That dollar thing was totally uncalled for.
I'm happy.
I did what he wanted me to do. I stopped coming over there. I stopped speeding.
I'm happy with that. That's what I wanted.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Montero versus Hill. Step forward, please.
36-year-old cleaning supervisor Deborah Montero is suing 47-year-old security guard Isaac Hill. Deborah says during a scuffle between her witness and Mr. Hill, she was injured.
Ms. Montero, it's your claim that Mr. Hill is responsible for some injuries that you sustained when he was in some sort of an altercation with someone that you were with.
Yes, my witness.
And he either pushed or shoved that person. That person went into you, causing you to fall, and that's when you sustained the injuries.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. When did this happen and where?
It was November 24th, the day after Thanksgiving, downtown New Haven in Connecticut. I'm part of the clean team. We take care of cleaning the sidewalks and the curbs.
Okay.
I was cleaning the curbs, standing in the street, and Mr. Sullivan had come up and we were talking.
That's Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, that is. We were talking. He was facing me, so his back was to the mall. Then all of a sudden I heard somebody screaming, that's it, I'm tired of this. And like 2 seconds later, Mr. Hill shoved Mr. Sullivan into me. Mr. Sullivan's elbowed me in the mouth and the chin. I pretty much broke Mr. Sullivan's fall with my face.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Deborah Montero says she was injured when Isaac Hill pushed her friend, Sam Sullivan. Isaac says Sam threatened to blow up his car.
How were you injured?
When Mr. Sullivan fell back, he elbowed my chin, jilting my neck and twisting my back.
Did you see a doctor?
At the time, no, I did not. But I started to feel neck and back pain from being snapped back. Eventually, it started to get really bad, so I did need to go see a chiropractor.
And you did. About how long after the November 24th incident did you go to see a chiropractor?
About 1 week later.
Did you ever see a lawyer?
Yes, I did.
When did you see a lawyer?
This was on a Friday, the following Monday.
You went to see an attorney?
Yes.
The chiropractor that you went to see, was the chiropractor referred to you by the lawyer?
Yes, yes.
Did you go to work the following week?
The next day was Saturday. I was supposed to work. I did miss work on Saturday because I went to get out of bed and I was really stiff.
What about the following week? Did you go to work the following week?
Yes. At the time, I was a supervisor. I was unable to perform my duties to the fullest, so I had to have some of my guys like take the trash bags out, you know, help me out.
You went to work the entire next week?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Hill, I've read your answer. Tell me what position you hold in this mall, because I assume you were employed by the mall?
I'm the supervisor of security at that mall.
And I assume that you, from your answer, know Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, I've had dealings with Mr. Sullivan.
And I assume that you did not want Mr. Sullivan anywhere around the mall.
I didn't know. That's not true. He was welcome at the mall.
But something happened that day, sir, and you initiated it. You went up to him, correct?
I went up, no. He proceeded in my direction first.
So you tell me your version of what happened. They're standing outside the mall.
I pulled my car up to go into the mall to cash my check that morning. I was off duty, okay? As I approached the mall, he walked in my direction, and because of prior incidents which we have had.
So there have been prior incidents of physical encounters?
Not physical. In his usual manner of threatening. He said, oh, that's your car. He had never seen me in my car before, I presume. And I looked at him, and I didn't respond, and he said, okay, I know what I'm going to do with that car. Boom! And I just took that as a saying, he's going to blow my car up. He proceeded to back up. I guess he looked at my eyes. He saw I'm not the one to be playing with. So I did shove him. I said, do it now, Sam. Why don't you do it now? Okay? As a result, he started, in his cowardly fashion again, backpedaling. Okay? He just backpedaling away from me. And he goes in his pocket. And I see him go in his pocket, and I go, there was a dustpan on the pole. And I picked up the dustpan, because I know, you know, I didn't know what it was in his hand. I couldn't make it out. Then when I seen it was a cell phone, I put the dustpan back down. And I went back into the mall, got my check, came out, and the police were there.
Did they have a discussion with you with regard to the plaintiff's injuries?
When the police arrived, I immediately, he asked me, did you hit this guy? Did you shove this guy? I said, yes. Then I went to start to proceed to explain why I hit him. He said, I don't hear nothing. And he made me go into the mall. He wasn't interested in what I had to say about prior incidents.
Mr. Hill.
I'd like to make one more statement.
Okay.
When I came outside the mall, okay, and she did, now, you know, she did get hit. But the point is,
Now, let me stop you there. Mr. Hill.
Okay, I'm sorry. But it wasn't
Mr.
as a result of me pushing her.
Mr. Hill, I'm in
Him
charge.
into her.
Mr.
Okay,
Hill,
I'm sorry.
I'm in charge. Now, you just said something very important. You said she got hit.
Yeah, you'll see as the testimony my witness will describe, which I didn't know.
Okay, you didn't see her get hit.
No.
Tell me your name.
Andrew Peter.
Tell me what you saw with regard to the plaintiff getting hit.
Well, it was like 2 minutes after Mr. Hill pushed Sullivan over there. When he reached for his cell phone, he stepped off the curb. She was still sweeping, coming up, and talking at the same time.
You mean when Mr. Sullivan reached for his cell phone?
Yeah. He stepped off the curb, pulled his cell phone out. That's when she got hit in her face by his hand.
This happened at about the same time as Mr. Hill, according to his testimony, was picking up the dustpan, right?
The dustpan was on the corner.
No.
Right at the corner.
He said, pay careful attention to me. Mr. Hill said he went for the dustpan because Mr. Sullivan reached into his pocket for something.
That's a cell phone.
Right? So when I said to you, the cell phone and the dustpan were about the same moment, that would be correct. Is that right?
Well, like 3 seconds apart.
Seconds apart.
Yeah.
And the cell phone, you assume, or one might assume under the circumstances, was being used to call 911 because Mr. Hill had just shoved him. That be a fair statement?
Fair enough, yeah.
Just answer this question, Mr. Sullivan. Were you getting your cell phone in order to call the police?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, that's what I assumed. And according to you, that's when Miss Hill was hit by Mr. Sullivan's elbow when he reached for the cell phone.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's follow this logically. Mr. Hill was the first one that put his hands on another person by shoving Mr. Sullivan. As a result of you putting your hands on him, Mr. Sullivan reaches in his pocket to call the police. And as a result of that reaching in his pocket to call the police,
Your Honor, please.
Miss Montero gets hit. You acknowledge that she got hit. He acknowledges she got hit, right?
It wasn't by him pushing Sullivan into her.
It doesn't have to be. He caused the chain of events to occur.
He caused the chain of events when he stepped in my direction.
No.
Yes.
Mr. Hill, Pay careful attention to me, Mr. Hill. How old are you, sir?
I'm 47 years old. I don't like people running up on me.
I'm not going to be able to make an appreciable change in the way you do business in a relatively short period of time. But you're in charge of security.
I was off duty at the time.
Whether you're off duty or whether you're on duty, a person who's in charge of security at a mall is supposed to be level. Right? If someone makes a threat, whether you're on duty or off duty, the mall may say he's off duty because that's
this guy's mother makes, or not, I'm not going to say mother, his companion makes death threats at me.
Listen to me. Then what you do, Mr. Hill, if you're in charge of security, you're not just a private citizen. You are in charge of security like a peace officer. That's what it means, peace officer. So if someone is threatening you, and it may be someone who's not operating with a full, full semblance of chromosomes, all right? And that's a possibility, because if somebody makes threats to bomb your car, they're not operating with a full deck. Then what you do is you go inside to the mall and you call the police and you say, this man has just threatened me. He's threatened to blow up my car. I want the police to respond. Your response, however, was to push him.
Well, I was traumatized over the fact that in recent altercation, he tried to crawl over a police officer to get it, and they did nothing. I mean, I felt like the matter had been put in my hands, madam, and no one was doing nothing for me.
Clearly, then that day, you were pushed to the limit, so you acted inappropriately by putting your hands on him as a peace officer. I mean, if the police aren't responding appropriately, then it's your job to do the right thing, not to say, well, I'm going to compound it by doing the wrong thing by putting your hands on somebody. Miss Montero, you have photographs of your injuries?
No, I don't.
I don't need anything else. Listen to me. I'm a really smart lady.
Okay.
And I know what happens when somebody has second thoughts and says, well, because of him, I got hit. And you have a lawyer. The lawyer said, you must be really injured. I'm going to send you to my doctor. Then the lawyer goes to try to settle with the mall, and the mall said, listen, he wasn't even working that day. And then your lawyer cuts you loose, right? Lawyer cut you loose. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in small claims court, Miss Montero.
That is not correct. It's not against the mall. It's for Mr. Hill personally.
Well,
okay.
What I'm telling you is, you got hit in the jaw. The question is, what is that worth?
Okay, my neck and my back snapped back. I had a lot of back pain, a lot of neck pain. Okay.
All right, so you went to the chiropractor who made you feel better?
Somewhat.
Good.
Somewhat.
How much were the chiropractor's bills?
$876.
Okay.
And I have...
I just want to take a look at the chiropractor's bills, please.
Okay, and I have the police report.
Because there really is not much of a dispute. I've already found that as a result of Mr. Hill's actions, you got hit. And Mr. Hill wasn't acting as a peaceful officer. He let the history with Mr. Sullivan get in the way. Okay. Mr. Hill, you are responsible for the chiropractic bills, which ultimately the plaintiff will have to pay. There's $876 worth of chiropractic bills. And in addition, I am awarding her the sum of $2,000 because but for your actions, she would not have been hit in the face. And she was, in fact, hit in the face. And she was hit in the face because you did the wrong thing. And you got to pay for that. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,876. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yes.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Miller versus Hardesty, step forward, please.
19-year-old entertainment agent Jessica Miller and her husband, Howard Miller, are suing Jessica's cousin, 18-year-old carpet installer Stephen Hardesty, for breaking a lease. Stephen says Howard has a problem controlling his anger.
Mr. and Mrs. Miller, the defendant is your cousin. Whose cousin is he?
Mine.
According to your complaint, he signed a lease with you to live in some sort of property that you had for a year. He lived there for a couple of months. You claim he owes you for 10 months' rent because he left voluntarily.
Right.
And the defendant says that he was forced to move out by your husband, and therefore he owes you nothing. What kind of property did he rent from you?
My husband and I have a townhouse that we rent. When we signed the lease, he also signed the lease with us. We don't own it. We rent it from somebody else.
Your husband and you signed the lease when?
June 1st of 2001.
When did the defendant sign the lease?
Same date.
So what happened?
We had a few rules in the house. Before everybody moved in, we agreed on a few rules, being no drugs at all. It had to be quiet at night. You had to clean up after yourself. Just basic house rules. For the 6 weeks he lived with us, we had fights every other day about house rules not being cleaned up and stuff like that. One afternoon, his girlfriend at the time had said something to my husband about me, and when I got home that night, he said, don't talk to him, we're gonna have a house meeting when we get home.
Was his girlfriend living there?
She was, but she wasn't supposed to be. The deal with that was they have a child together. She was supposed to stay weekends so he can see the baby, and she could come over so he could see the baby.
Whose rule was that?
It was just an agreement we had until they got married, because she couldn't go on our lease until they were married.
Why not?
Because she's underage. She's only 16.
Shh. Okay, go ahead.
So she had an altercation with her parents to where she had to stay at the house. That was fine because the baby was there and there wasn't a whole lot of problems. But things just started getting out of hand. She wasn't working and neither was I. So we were supposed to take care of the house. And it seemed like it was me always scrubbing the bathrooms and cleaning the kitchens and doing everything. There was a lot of fighting going on. And one night in particular, they had some people over and they had a food fight. There was chocolate cake smeared into my living room carpet. I had an ornament that was precious to me broken. So I told him about it because I was very upset, and he was going to talk to them when they came in. And things got out of hand with them, and he said, look, Sarah's got to go. She's not on the lease. She's not even old enough to live here. She's got to leave. So that started a huge fight. And one thing led to another, and Steve said, well, she has to go. I'm going too. So he left, and he came back about an hour later with a cop to get a few things out of the house, and we hadn't seen him since.
What have you done to try to rent that other?
We can't rent it because his stuff is still there.
What's there?
His bed, their clothes, other personal things of his, paperwork they left there, boxes of other
What's all your
things.
stuff doing there?
I wasn't able to get a hold of them to go get
Well,
it.
the house hasn't moved. You take a police officer and you go over there with a truck and you get your stuff.
That is not why I had the police over there.
Okay, why you had the police over there? Okay. I'm going to assume as follows, that they told your girlfriend to leave, and you said, if she and the baby go, I'm going too, and I consider that an eviction of you. Do you understand?
Ma'am, at that time, the baby wasn't living there. Her mother had taken the baby.
Yes, because of all the yelling and screaming that her husband did. Whenever my daughter would
you
see him, she
understood
would
that
cry.
if you said Sarah's going, that he was going to go too.
No, because they had fought and she had left 3 or 4 times.
When did you physically leave the premises, sir?
July 19th.
Did you pay July's rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he pay July's
Yes.
rent? What was your share of the rent?
$375.
So August, September, and October, so far you didn't pay,
No, ma'am.
right? It's not a very difficult case. If you tell the girlfriend to leave, he's going to leave. You told the girlfriend to leave?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Mr. Hardesty, he says that he just told your girlfriend to leave. Did he tell you to leave too?
Not exactly, but once I told him that if she was leaving, I was leaving too, he said, fine, get your stuff and get out. And then he calls my wife a derogatory name.
When did you get married?
July 20th.
So
And-
this all happened the day before the wedding?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And then after he made the derogatory comment, I told him to shut up, that I was not talking to him. And then I heard my wife get out of the car and say something, so I looked over, and then when I went to look back, he punched me in the side of the face.
Ma'am,
and then
that's
I
not
left.
how that happened
No,
at
ma'am.
all. What had happened was our stairwell comes into our living room. He and I were standing on the stairwell, and he was standing in front of it.
No.
Sarah had said many, many comments that night about me being a fat, lazy because I did not work. I stayed home to take care of our home. There were a lot of derogatory comments said. Every single person here said something. What had happened when he said she has got to go? Stephen said, well, she is not leaving without me. So he said, fine, I'm leaving. He went downstairs, and as he said, I followed him down. I said, look, this is not the way I want things to end. And we pretty much agreed that it had to end that way. There was no other way. So he walked out to his car to see what she was doing. When he came back up, he came at my husband. And my husband just held his arms out to push him. So the step under our house, he just didn't make it up the step. And then when he got back up, he came at my husband, and my husband swung
Yeah,
at him.
his arms were out like that, so I thought he was trying to tackle me.
No, ma'am.
So I swung at him.
Mr. and Mrs. Miller, since you have been required to pay the full rent for the months that he has things there which do not enable you to rent that part of your house to somebody else, you have to be compensated for that. You have to do, however, whatever you can to find someone else. But if you're going to rent the house to somebody else, you have to start looking. You can't start looking until he gets his stuff out. So this is what you're going to do. You are going to get all of his stuff. 5 days from today, all of your stuff is going to be out in the street. Do you understand?
Yes.
They are going to call Salvation Army or whatever else and have Salvation Army come the next day. So you have 1 day to get your stuff. Other than that, it's gone. Clothes, pictures, valuables, bed, dresser, anything else that's there. You got 1 day to get it.
Why should I only have 1 day when they
Because
told
that's
me
what
to
I'm
get
giving
out?
you. 1 day unless you pay rent, which you haven't done. Do we understand each other? I'm going to reduce
No.
this to an order so that you can read it over and over again and understand it.
But what if all of my stuff is not out?
Sir, they don't want your stuff, and it's been 4 months already, and you haven't gone back for it, so I assume you're not missing it. Okay, so then you have a month to find somebody else, because I am awarding you 4 months' rent, or $1,500. Sir, you got a very narrow window to get your stuff out. Do you understand?
Yes.
Perfect. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Now, this is case number 350 on the calendar in the matter of Armendariz versus Rodriguez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Mr. Armendariz, the defendant was married to your father who died in jail recently.
Yes, ma'am.
How long were you married?
14 years.
According to both of you, your father and your husband was a very difficult man. According to both of you, he had a drug problem, he had a bad temper problem, and at the time of his death,
Your Honor.
Listen to me, at the time of his death, you were separated.
Yes, ma'am.
And I also gather from reading the papers that there had been an altercation involving you and your husband, for which he was arrested. Was he taken into custody?
He was taken into custody, but they had taken him to a hospital for evaluation.
So we had problems. It is your claim, sir, that the defendant took a car that belonged to your father that he willed to you.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that after the will was drafted, he gave her power of attorney over the car, and it was her car to sell and dispose of. She further says that you came into the home at some point when your father was either hospitalized or shortly after his death, and sold or took all of the property in the house, property that was their property during the 14 years that they were married.
No, ma'am.
So shh, that's her counterclaim.
Okay.
Now let me understand the circumstances surrounding your father's death. I believe that you moved in to take care of your father after he was released from psychiatric hospital.
I picked him up from the hospital, Your Honor.
Try to pay attention to the broader picture, sir.
Okay.
You were living with him, there was fight, he became abusive, and he was hospitalized.
Yes, ma'am.
He left the hospital and you went to live with him.
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
June 1st, 2002.
Now, up until 2002, you had been living with him as husband and wife. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When was he taken to the hospital?
In
June?
Yes, ma'am.
June comes, there's major altercation. He's taken off to the hospital. When he's released, you go to live with your father.
Yes, he needed medical attention, medical help with his medicine. She had left my father.
I didn't ask you anything else.
Okay.
And then there came a time that your father stabbed you in the head.
Yes.
When was that?
That was July the 12th.
So, a short period of time after they decided that he wasn't crazy and that he could leave the hospital, he stabs his son in his head, right?
He was using crack cocaine, Your Honor.
Ooh, right. Crack cocaine, drugs, not balanced, stabs you in the head. Police are called, he's arrested, and he's taken to jail.
Yes.
When did he die?
August 27th.
Where was he when he died?
He was in jail.
What did he die from?
I don't know exactly, but he had pulmonary heart disease and cirrhosis of the liver.
Sounds like he was some problem over a long period of time.
Yes, he was, and we tried to help him, Your Honor.
Where do you live?
In Dallas.
Where did he live?
Dallas.
Did you live with your husband continuously, Mrs. Rodriguez, during the 14 years that you were married up until June of 2002?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, I'd like to see a copy of your father's will, and I want to see a copy of the power of attorney that his wife says was executed after the will was executed. The date on this was changed, madam.
Yes, ma'am, it was, because I was very confused at the time. He signed it, and I dated it, and I couldn't quite remember when I visited him in jail, because that was signed when he was in jail. He also...
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
This is invalid. Take it and throw it away. Line your garbage can with it. There was a date on there, but it was changed.
Yeah, I did that.
Well,
I did.
then it's invalid.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what you did was you went and got an affidavit of heirship for a car.
Yes, ma'am.
Saying that your husband died without a will.
Yes.
But he didn't die without a will. He
At
had a will.
that time, I didn't know he had a will, ma'am.
Then you were mistaken. He has a will.
I know now he had one.
And I sure think you probably knew September 12th, 2002. When did you tell your stepmother that he had a will?
I believe July 14th.
July the 14th, I gave her a copy of the will that I had.
Oh, you did? Where were you when you gave her a copy of the will?
At my house. And she came over and picked it up.
So that you knew, Mrs. Rodriguez, that he had a will?
Then I did, yes, ma'am.
Well, you signed this in September.
Okay.
So, you knew in September, when you signed this, and swore to the fact that there was no will, that there was a will, and that the will gave the car to your son. Therefore, where is the car?
The car is in my possession.
Car is going to him. Easy. That's easy. So now we've taken care of the car. Do you understand?
Your Honor, may I speak something?
Yeah, sure.
When my husband was in jail, I went to go see him. And he told me then, he says, I don't want Tommy to have the car.
That's unfortunate. All I'm telling you is...
And to Your Honor...
listen to me. Listen to me carefully. He gets the car because that's what the law says. Where's the title to the car?
I have it, but it's not
see.
in my name. I've sold the car.
You sold... Just a second. Let me see the title to the car. Who did you sell the car to?
The original. We have the original.
Who did you sell the car to, Mrs. Rodriguez?
Robert.
When did you sell the car?
I sold the car profitably.
Your Honor, that's who she lives with.
I sold the car after I found out all this was going on because Tommy had went and sold my items in my house.
Just a second.
That's a lie,
Well,
Your
we're going to
Honor.
get to that in a second.
Yes, ma'am.
You're slick. You're being slick, and I don't like it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I also had two 25-inch color TVs.
Your Honor, the television's there at the house.
No. Listen to me. I think you're a hustler. I think you're a hustler, too. I have a feeling you people do deserve each other.
And later today,
Miss Hamilton, what are you complaining about? You came out ahead.
Well,
You have a car. He paid a piece of that car. He has no use of that car. Come on, so far I'm unsympathetic towards your plight.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tommy Armendariz says his stepmother owes for the value of a 1990 Beretta. Tommy says the car was left to him after his father died in jail.
Okay. Now, I don't know whether he did the wrong thing by selling the items in your house, and maybe you both deserve each other. But this is playing slick. This Robert is the person you live with?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't ask you anything. Is this the person you live with?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is a lot of baloney, just like the other piece of paper that you gave me that
Your
was
Honor,
doctored
I have
up.
the title.
I didn't ask you anything. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I don't want you to say anything else till I ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
What items do you claim that he sold that belonged to you and your husband?
Oh, Lord.
Everything.
Everything that I've
Fine.
accumulated in the
Mr.
past 14
Armendariz,
years.
did you sell anything or dispose of any property that was in your father's house? Now, you make sure that I hear the truth, everything.
My father sold some of his stuff in a garage sale, and some of the stuff is still in the house right here. I've got pictures of it.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you whether you or anyone acting on
No,
your
ma'am.
behalf disposed of any property in the house.
No, ma'am.
Nothing.
Nothing. I've got pictures, Your Honor.
Let me see.
Of everything she left in the house. What was the date?
And all this stuff is still there?
15th.
Yes, ma'am. It's all there.
It's all there.
Show this to the defendant, please.
Your Honor, may I say something, please?
No, I want you to look. I want you to follow my directions.
Yes, ma'am.
That stuff is still in the house. Do you want that stuff?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to have it, but there's still some stuff that's not there.
What?
I have two more blue recliners.
Do you have any evidence that he disposed of them rather than your husband disposing them?
I know they were in the house when I last went in there. I have a police report where he called the police on me.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about
Because
from the
he's having a
time you
garage
left.
sale.
Listen to me. From the time you left till the time your husband was taken to jail, there was a period of time there that he could have disposed of certain property.
Yes.
Now, do you have any proof that he disposed of those two recliners that you're looking for and not your husband?
I don't have the proof of that.
Okay,
no,
so we have no proof of that. What else is missing other than the two blue recliners?
An entertainment center, which is not in the picture.
Do you know
Your
anything
Honor,
about
my father sold that in a garage sale.
when?
I'm not sure on the date.
It was 5:15 is when we picked him up from Parkland. It was a week later.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. I also had two 25-inch color TVs.
Where are those?
My father sold that in a garage sale. He was making room for us to move some of our furniture in the house. So
Why would he sell television sets?
He had a television in each of his rooms.
Well, where are the television sets that are there, sir?
He sold them.
He sold them.
No, listen to me. I have a feeling you people do deserve each other. If your father had televisions in each room in the house, and I look at those pictures, and I don't see any television sets, in those pictures?
There is one television in the house. I forgot to take a picture of it, Your Honor.
I think you're a hustler. I think you're a hustler too.
Your Honor, the television's there at the house. She can come and
You
get it.
said to me, listen to me. You said to me, these are the things that are in the house. And all of a sudden you leave out certain electronic equipment.
One television, Your Honor.
No, I don't believe one television. I don't believe that your father would sell all the televisions and leave one television.
I had televisions myself, Your Honor, when I moved in.
And how many televisions were there? No, don't speak. Look, talk to me.
About 3 or 4.
If you say another word, madam,
There
under
was
your
about
breath, you're
3
leaving. Do you
televisions.
understand? Unless I ask you a question.
I think he had about 3 televisions in there, but he did sell them in a garage sale.
I don't believe you. Okay. What's next?
Yes, ma'am. I had a Queen Anne Victorian couch. That's not in the picture?
Couch.
My father sold it, Your Honor. We had furniture too. He wanted to get rid of his old furniture to make room for our furniture so we'd have a place to put it.
Your Honor, may I speak?
Who are you?
This is my daughter.
Does she have any information about when these items were sold?
Yes, ma'am. And
Step up.
She also has... Okay.
Your last name?
Lamb.
Go ahead.
The Queen Anne Victorian couch would not have been sold by my stepfather for the simple fact it was an heirloom. He treasured that as much as my mother did. There are many items on this list that my father, my stepfather, who to me was my father, that were important to him. There are some things on here that he wouldn't have sold, especially...
Well, I don't know that. Is that what you want to tell me? Sit down. Sit. Okay. This is so easy. Very, very easy. She's a hustler. She had no right to do what she did with your car. The car really should have been yours. Right now, there is a third person who has a title in that car, and I'm not getting involved with it. I might have, under ordinary circumstances, gotten involved with it, but I think that you sold some property. Either sold, kept, moved into your house that belonged to your father, and that you felt as if you were perfectly entitled, since she left, to dispose of and use the property any way you deemed fit.
Your Honor,
I believe that that's what you did. You are not going to convince me that you didn't either take or sell those television sets. And I don't know whether he was attached to a couch or not. Mr. Armendariz, unfortunately, you don't get your car. And unfortunately, you have a counterclaim. And your counterclaim is for property.
Yes, ma'am.
Property that you thought was yours. I hope you got a good price for the car, because you'll have to go and replace some of the items with the money that you got from selling him the car.
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's been pretty hard.
It would have all worked out if he would just let me have my stuff.
She left him. She didn't care about his medical problems.
I'm glad it's over with, because it's been torturing me for a long time.
$5, that's all.
Yeah, this is case number 309 on the calendar in the matter of Rossi versus Holden Hills. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Mr. and Mrs. Rossi, you recently got married.
Yes, ma'am.
And the defendants catered your wedding.
Yes, ma'am.
You were not real happy with the wedding.
Very upset.
And you want half your money back, which
Yes,
is
ma'am.
$3,000. When was the wedding?
August 10th, 2002.
And how many people did you have at the wedding?
120, ma'am.
Did they have a catering hall?
Actually, it's a country club / reception hall catering company.
And they provided the food?
Yes, ma'am.
They say that everything just went along swimmingly well, except for some little bananas or something that weren't done quite right. So I have a few questions before we get into what you weren't happy with.
Okay.
Having done a few weddings myself, I know that you usually go for a tasting of the food and to pick the menu. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you go for the tasting?
Approximately 1 or 2 months before the actual wedding day.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's say you went there sometime in either June or July, and you picked the menu.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had dinner.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you meet the chef?
Yes, ma'am.
On August 10th of 2002, did you have the same chef?
Yes, we did.
Same chef?
Yes, but she was fired that night.
We let her go that night, and we terminated her shortly thereafter.
Why?
Well, her attitude was, can't do anything about it now type of attitude, instead of being apologetic. And
Can't do anything about what?
the fact that the plantains were not properly prepared.
Let's start. So you say there was nothing wrong at the wedding except the plantains were not properly prepared. Is that right, sir?
That was Mr. Rossi's main complaint that
I'm
night.
not talking about his main complaint. I'm talking about you do weddings. What was wrong with the food?
The only thing that was wrong with the food, Your Honor, was the plantains were not ripe and therefore were not prepared properly.
Let me hear.
That's not true.
Let's start with the first complaint.
Well, when we arrived at the reception hall and had our photographs taken, shortly thereafter, probably about 7 o'clock, we entered into the hall. There was no appetizers in the bridal room, as we had requested. There didn't seem to be any coordination.
That was in the bridal room, not,
Right.
not where the reception was being held.
Right.
So you didn't have an hors d'oeuvre to eat when you got there? You
Right.
personally?
Right.
Let's move on.
Okay. We walked into the reception hall after we were introduced, and all the salads were supposed to be in front of our guests and in front of our tables waiting for us.
Okay, so when you come into Michael and Zaida Rossi, come in, and everybody's standing around their tables, and the salads are supposed to be in place at that
Right.
time, and they were not there.
Right.
Why
That's
not?
correct. The salads were not the first course, Your Honor. The first course, the appetizer course, was a pasta course. So the pasta would have been served before the salads as an appetizer.
Well, was pasta served?
The pasta was served before the salads, ma'am. And the salads were supposed to be on the table waiting for our guests, and then the pasta was supposed to be served after the salads.
Do you have a copy of the menu?
I have a copy of the contract, and it has everything that is on the menu. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but does it say what's to be served first, the pasta or the salad?
It says that it is cheese and the fruit displays, and then it says ziti and marinara, and then the chicken and the plantains afterwards. It doesn't say that the salad should be served before.
Okay,
no.
so what's your next complaint?
My next complaint is after they served the ziti, then they served the salads, and then we had to wait an hour before they actually served the dinner. So what we had to do is we had to ask the DJ to move along with the garter toss and the flower toss and the cake cutting. And we had to do this all before the dinner. The dinner wasn't served until 9:20 p.m. And the dinner was supposed to be served in between 7:30 and 8 o'clock, ma'am. We were married at 5 o'clock. And we had to go around and apologize to everybody for not
between
the food.
7:30 and 8 o'clock. What happened? What happened?
What happened is the bridal party was running late that day, and when we say 7:30, 8 o'clock, it's an estimated time. 99% of the time it runs late.
Why did it run an hour and a half late, is my question. Were you having trouble with the chef?
I think Mr. Rossi's referring to the entree being served
Yeah,
at 9:20.
he's talking about the entree.
I'm not sure if it was 9:20, Your Honor. It might have been closer to 9. But if the party runs late, we still have to go through all the steps of serving the meal correctly, which means serving the appetizer,
So you weren't having
clearing
any
the
problem?
plates.
You weren't having any problem with the
No,
chef? Okay,
no.
let's go next.
Ma'am, after he served...
Let's go next. The meal comes. Is anything wrong with the meal?
Oh, yeah. It was disgusting. It was nasty.
I couldn't even make out what the plantains were. They were like rotten. They were hard.
It was
Okay,
disgusting.
now what was served
It was supposed
with...
to be an ethnic meal.
Okay, what are you having as a main dish?
We're having Spanish rice, boneless chicken with plantains on the side.
Okay, so that was the side dish.
Right.
A side dish. That was the main problem, the plantains.
Well, the rice was nothing compared to what we had the day of our taste testing.
It was
The chicken was either overcooked or undercooked, and the plantains, half the people couldn't even make out what they were.
Well, he acknowledges that they were pretty nasty.
The rice was mushy. It was nothing what we had at the taste testing.
Okay, usually isn't.
It was nothing in
Usually
comparison.
isn't.
Ma'am. Okay.
But what did you do for them because the plantain, their side dish, was bad?
Well, as the night went on, Mr. Rossi had been drinking quite a bit. He came in drinking out of the limousine and down the aisle when they were introduced. And it was hard dealing with him. He was very upset with reason. We take full responsibility for the plantains, and we did try to make restitution. Towards the end of the evening, we told him we'd give him like $300 for the plantains. He didn't want to hear about it. Threw them at my feet in my office, where Linda Rossi had to take him out of the office. At the end of the night, I told him to go on his honeymoon, come back, and we'll discuss it when he comes back. And he came back with, Your Honor, this grocery list of 3 pages of what we think are nonsense nitpicking items.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I take the plantain out of the napkin. I said, look at what you're serving my guests. This was totally embarrassing. I threw it on the floor.
Get over it. There are worse things that happen globally than bad bananas.
And later today,
she said I could have a couple friends over.
Couple, like Noah's Ark, 2 by 2, couples, 2. So how many people did you have at this July 4th party?
About 20 now.
20 is more than a couple.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michael and Zaida Rossi say wedding banquet managers Roy and Rita Vermeesh owe for a refund of their wedding reception. The Rossis say the food was inedible.
Go ahead, Mr. Rossi, I'll hear you.
Okay, I had a couple of beers. I was not drunk.
Okay.
When the dinner was served at 9:20 p.m., I took one of the plantains and I put them in the napkin. I went out to the bar area and I was looking to speak to Roy. And that's where I encountered this woman where she was the head waitress, and I asked to speak to Roy. She wouldn't let me speak to him. He was very busy. Finally, he comes around the corner, and I take him into the office. I said, Roy, can I speak to you? He said, sure. I take him in the office. I said, Roy, look what time it is. It's 9:20. I got married at 5:30. And I take the plantain out of the napkin. I said, look at what you're serving my guests. I was so upset. This was our wedding day. This was totally embarrassing. I threw it on the floor. I was upset. I admit I threw it on the floor. And I told him, this is embarrassment, and I expect a refund or I will take you to court.
Fine. How much of a refund did you want?
Well, we set up an appointment, and I asked him for $3,000
Well,
back.
$3,000 is outrageous. That's half.
Ma'am, we had golfers come in and eat.
Did you listen to me? $3,000, that's half.
It was a real embarrassment, ma'am.
Well, you get over it.
The waitresses were rude.
Excuse me,
Half
Your
of them
Honor.
wouldn't serve water.
I want to tell you something. I'm not minimizing the fact that this was not the wedding that you planned on, that you had nasty waitresses, that the rice wasn't good, that the chicken wasn't terrific, that the meal was served 45 minutes to an hour late. I'm not minimizing any of that. What that would do is to say to somebody, never use this catering hall again because we were totally dissatisfied. But if there was one thing, and it's clear from what Mr. Rossi says, the one thing that really irritated him, the one thing that he did was he brought this plantain in a napkin and threw it on the floor because that was what was awful. Look what you're serving my guests. There should be some restitution for that, not half the cost of your wedding. Put your hand down. Are you her mother?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, if you're her mother, then what you do is you say to yourself, I'm going to teach your daughter a little bit of what's important and what's not. You don't get yourself totally exercised over something. You had a wedding, you got married, it's supposed to be a nice day. If the little bananas weren't right, you get over it. It's not the worst thing in the world. There are worse things that happen globally than bad bananas. And you don't expect it to be...
When you pay for a service,
It's not
you
the whole
expect to get
thing.
it. When you pay $6,000 for a service,
Absolutely
then
right.
you expect to
And
get
there are
it.
certain things that are objective and there are certain things that are subjective. Attitudes of waitresses is not something that I could put on a barometer. Whether golfers came into the country club and ate your appetizers, something that you should consider before you book a country club where they have golfing people coming inside.
Well, they had assured us that golfers were be off of there by 6 p.m.
Listen to me. You're not following what I'm saying to you. If you're dissatisfied with the service, you don't recommend them again. You fed 120 people. 120 people came, they danced. Put your hand down, Mr. Rossi. That's what your main concern was. Your main gripe was one of the side dishes, and it's true that there were only 2 side dishes, turned out to be really lousy. You had your salad, you had your pasta, you had your cake, you had chicken, you had drinks. Let's see what else you had. You had cheese and fruit display. I assume that was there. You had hors d'oeuvres. You had beef teriyaki, scalloped bacon meatballs. Since I heard nothing about that, I assumed that they were there.
I would like to compliment.
You had something with grated cheese. You had chicken, rice, and plantains. Now, the plantains were lousy. They acknowledged that. You had wedding cake and ice cream, which I assume was served.
No, they did not even serve us. They didn't even offer me and my wife a piece of the wedding cake, ma'am.
Oh, get over it.
Can I say
Judgment for the
something?
plaintiff, listen to me. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. The whole wedding was $6,000, $500. As far as I'm concerned, it covers the
nothing.
bad plantains. Goodbye. Be happy.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She didn't want me to say anything about a dog coming in,
He came in, probably just walked into the place. Within seconds, he was out the door.
about coffee not being served, about water not being served.
I was probably rude, but I thought he was a drunk from downstairs.
About golfers eating your food, I mean, come on.
I think they should be happy and get on with their lives.
Bye.
Your Honor, this is case number 400 on the calendar in the matter of Straub versus Snelson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Straub, how old are you?
I'm 20.
When were you 20?
April 5th.
According to your complaint, for your 19th birthday, the defendant, who was then your boyfriend, bought you a dog. You've since broken up. He came in, stole the dog. You want the dog back or the value of the dog? Mr. Snelson says that he never gave you this dog as a gift. The gift was bought for his son, for his son's 5th birthday, and he is counterclaiming for some property that you have that belongs to him. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you living together?
Yes.
When did you start to live together?
We started living together when I was 18, but we had broken up right after he had given me the dog for my 19th birthday.
Just a minute. Did you move into his apartment? Did he move into your apartment? Or did you move in together into a new apartment?
I moved into his house, but I moved into my house, into my mother's house in Portland after we had broken up, after he...
Shh. Try paying attention to my questions. You moved into his house. Who lived in his house?
Several people.
Who?
A couple of roommates, his son and I and him.
How old is his son?
He was 4 then.
When is your birthday in April? April 5th?
Mm-hmm.
On what day was the dog purchased?
I am not sure. It was a couple days before my 19th birthday.
And tell me the circumstances of his giving you the dog.
He had gotten the dog from someone
Look
he
at
had
me.
bought.
He brought it home and he said, "Happy birthday, here's your dog." And that was it.
What kind of dog is it?
She's an American Pit Bull.
How old was the dog?
She'll be 2 in January.
How old was the dog when you got it?
She was about 3 months old.
And when did you break up?
We broke up right after my 19th birthday. I moved back to Portland. And I took Karma with me. And she lived with me in Portland at my mother's house, which I have proof.
Okay. For how long?
For approximately a year.
When did he come and get the dog? What date?
What date? I moved back to Bend after living.
What Bend?
I moved. We lived in Bend together. And
What
then,
Bend? Is that Bend, Oregon?
Bend, Oregon, yes.
Okay.
And after I had broken up with him, after I had received the dog as a gift for my 19th birthday, I moved back to Portland, Oregon. And she lived
took
with
the dog
me.
with you?
Yes.
Okay.
And she lived with me. I have plenty of paperwork, receipts, original receipts from Portland, from Petco. I have Safeway, places, dates, times, amounts.
Okay, I'll take a look at them in a minute.
Okay. And she lived with me at my mother's house.
For a year?
For about a year, yes.
Was it 9 months? Was it 10 months?
It was almost a year, maybe a couple weeks
Okay, and then
short.
you moved back to Bend.
Then I moved back to Bend.
Where he is now.
Mm-hmm.
And he was all
And
along.
I am there now. And we had stayed.
No, look at me. You're looking
I'm
down
sorry.
at your paperwork. Don't look down at your paperwork.
Okay.
You broke up, you took the dog, you went back to your mother's.
Okay.
You stayed with your mother, and then you moved back to Bend. When you moved back to Bend, where did you go?
To his grandmother's. And then
So you went back, you were back together again?
Yes. And then shortly.
You were back together again?
Yes.
What month and year did you move back to Bend?
End of April, beginning of May of this year.
And when did you break up for the last time?
September 3rd, when he had choked me. And I called the police and had him removed.
So from May to September, you lived together?
Yes.
And the police removed him?
They requested that he leave, yes. And I filed a restraining order the next morning. And the apartment is in my name solely.
So when you moved back to Bend, you leased an apartment and he moved in with you? I thought you were living with his grandmother.
We lived with his grandmother for approximately 2 months. And then I leased an apartment in my name on July 22nd of this year.
And that's where the two of you were living. July, August, up until September 3rd, you were living with the dog. Is that right?
Yes.
Where was his son?
His son was in Alaska with his mother.
Is that right, Mr. Steelson? Look at me,
To my
sir.
knowledge.
No. To your knowledge, you would know if your son isn't around. You wake up in the morning, you go and look in his room. If he's not there, look at me.
Well, I'm trying to
look
think
at me.
It has
I
been
just asked
roughly about 8 months to a year.
that your
since
son
he's
has
been
been
over there
living with his
mother.
mother.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, tell me how he got possession of the dog.
After I had filed the restraining order, I had dropped it because I want to remain friends with him still. I didn't want all this. But he had came into my house and started arguing with me and just walked in. He still had a key because I had yet to be able to get it from him. And he walked through my back French doors of my patio, came in, argued with me, and grabbed her, and then ran off with her.
Okay.
And he had called me
That's a
after
lie,
that.
Your Honor.
He had called me several times from a payphone and asked me if I had wanted to discuss this further, maybe repress the situation.
Do you have any of his property?
I have pots and pans and dishes that his aunt and his grandmother purchased for us for our house, and I would be more than willing to give those back to him.
Fine. Pots, pans, and dishes. What else? You have a ring that belonged to his
I do
grandfather?
not have a ring of his. I do not have any other possessions of his. He took everything, and he even took my DVD player upon leaving, and he had then later
Now,
given it back to me.
Good. The real issue here is the dog. Is that right?
Yeah, somewhat. I would really like my ring and everything
Pay careful
back.
attention to me, sir.
Okay, if I can get my
Pay
personal
careful
belongings
attention to
back,
me. You can't pay
I would
careful
love to.
attention to me if you're moving your mouth.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When my mouth starts to move, your mouth stops. And the only time that doesn't happen is when somebody is usually on speed or some sort of mind-altering drug, because otherwise people know that when they're in a courtroom, judge speaks, they don't.
And later today,
You want her to pay for a vasectomy that she insisted that you have because she didn't want any more children.
Yes, ma'am.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melody Straub says ex-boyfriend Casey Snelson won't return her pit bull named Karma. Casey says he bought the dog as a birthday gift for his son.
When you had an argument over a year ago with Miss Straub, did she leave Bend, Oregon, and go and live with her mother for a period of time?
No, ma'am.
She did not. She never left. Is that
She
what
left,
you're telling me?
but no, ma'am, she did not go straight to her mother's.
I didn't ask you whether she went straight to her mother's. I asked whether she left and went to her mother's in Portland.
I went with her, though, is what I'm saying.
You stayed with her?
Yes.
did not live
She
with
came
her?
to live with me and my best friend in Vancouver, Washington, for approximately a month and a half. Then she moved to her mother's, and it was only about 3 months that
When
we were
she
over there.
moved to her mother's, Mr. Sneelson, was the dog with her?
No.
Yes.
Where was the dog?
It was with me and my roommate and my son and his 2 kids in the apartment with us.
Really?
Yes.
No.
I don't believe you.
You don't believe me?
Yeah, I don't believe you. Show me the proof that the dog was with you in Portland. Show me the... Show me.
Here's everything. That's got it all. She's registered under Multnomah and Deschutes County. All of her rabies vaccinations are under me. Karma Straub.
I'm missing something, Bird. I'm really missing something. My eyes must be getting up. Would you point out the dog in these pictures? See a dog in those pictures?
Not in those, Your Honor.
Well, then what are you giving it to me for?
No, that was the house that I was living at with my mother.
Listen, I don't care about the house and your mother or you. I want you. I asked you. I'm
There's
not looking
pictures
through
in
all
there,
this
Your
garbage.
Honor.
Would you kindly look through this junk and show me proof of the dog living with you in Portland, Oregon?
This is her license under Multnomah County. Here are her pictures along with all of her vaccinations and everything in
Let me just
Portland.
see. I don't want to see the pictures. I want to see the vet bill.
Okay.
Good.
I also
Mr. Nielsen, listen to me very carefully. Did you ever live with the plaintiff in Portland, Oregon?
Yes.
When?
Around June of 2001 until about August of 2001.
Where did you live?
We lived in Vancouver, Washington, at an apartment complex there.
Is English your primary language?
What's that?
Is English your primary language? Yes. I said to you, did you ever live in Portland, Oregon with the plaintiff?
No, not in Portland. But, I mean,
So the answer is no.
connected. I mean, they're connected.
So the answer is no. You
Okay,
never
no.
lived with her in Portland, Oregon.
Your Honor,
Vancouver and Portland are connected.
I have receipts that I had kept from Portland also, as well
Wait,
as...
just a sec. I mean, what are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?
What? You said Portland, Oregon. He's talking about Washington. I
Well,
thought that was rather humorous.
Your Honor?
There's only
What?
a tiny bridge that divides, and that's
Tragic
why
humorous.
you
What?
commute from one side to the other. There's only a small bridge that divides Portland and,
I want to tell you,
Vancouver.
let me ask you this question, sir. You think that if you paid your taxes to the state of Washington, the state of Oregon would say, that's really nice, we're going to... We don't care.
Well,
You
that's
paid
like
it
my
for
friend
Washington,
works
paid
in
to
Oregon,
Oregon.
he lives
We
in
don't care.
the
One
same
is the same thing. I asked you a question. I said, did you ever live with her in Portland, Oregon? The answer is what?
No.
Good.
Sorry.
I also have
I
original...
didn't ask you anything. In any event, your defense, sir, is that you bought this dog for your son. It was a
Yes.
gift for your son.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am, it
right?
was.
But your son doesn't live with you. Why didn't you give the dog to him?
My son did live with me at the time.
He doesn't live with you now. He hasn't lived with you in a year.
No, but just because I bought the dog when my son
But
was
the
there,
kid,
was
what?
the
What
dog
were you gonna
supposed to
say?
go to Alaska?
Why not? The dog
Because his
belongs to the
mother wasn't
child.
going to take the dog, and that's my responsibility to take care of that animal.
I don't believe you. I believe that you bought the dog for her and came home and said to her, whether you intended to buy it for her or not, I believe that you came home. Oh, by the way, can I see the bill of sale? I want to see when he bought the dog. Shh. Say nothing.
Okay.
May I say something?
Shh. Say nothing. Oh. This says that the dog was purchased in March for $250.
Yes, ma'am.
He didn't even get that bill of sale until after I had called the police on him, Your Honor.
Is that right?
Stating
I believe you.
that he
I believe you.
took
Show
her
me the
from me.
registration for the dog.
Registration there. She's not.
She's registered
she's
under
not
me
a-
under Multnomah.
Show me the registration.
I even have a tape, Your Honor, a cassette tape that he left a message on my answering machine stating that he wanted to give me back my dog, but I don't want to play his rules.
Okay, you have that
No,
tape? Let me
I
see it.
tried to be very civil between this case, and we tried
Quiet.
to work on a
Sir,
competitive level.
You see this receipt? This
Yes,
receipt is baloney.
That's mine.
It's baloney.
What?
It's baloney.
I have an Avid chip put in my animal too.
Can you
that registers
please,
her to
can
me.
you please
if
play
she's
that tape
taken,
for me?
it comes back to me. It's all registered into my name.
I believe it's
At any
not
time.
enough.
Go ahead.
8:52 p.m. Over there.
I can't hear it.
because I did want to stay.
How can you have a videotape when your thing has no video? I mean, that's no. That was when we were in a fight. I was just letting her see her yell.
You said what?
That was
sir?
when we were in an argument, and I was just, this was during a time where we were commuting back and forth. She was meeting me behind my grandmother's house so she could see Karma and stuff. Then we tried to hook back up. We hooked back up and stuff after this tape and everything. We had been together after this.
No,
Yes,
we
we
don't.
have, Your Honor.
So what? You said I'll give you back Karma.
For the night. That's for the night.
You're full of
Your Honor.
baloney.
That's not for...
Mr.
No,
Nielsen,
no, no, no,
Mr.
no,
Nielsen,
no. That's
Mrs. Nielsen, two things. First of all, lying is something.
I know.
You know,
And this is all lies. That's why I can't understand
lying is
this.
something
This
that
is
is
just
objectionable to
absolutely
me.
ridiculous.
You take drugs.
No, Your Honor.
What I want you to do is, when my mouth starts to move, your mouth stops. Do you understand?
I know.
And the only time that doesn't happen is when somebody is usually on speed or some sort of mind-altering drug, because otherwise people know that when they're in a courtroom, judge speaks, they don't. Do you understand that? So I believe that this is her dog. I also believe that she is not going to be able to get this dog from you. Do you understand? Now, you're suing him for the dog or the value of the dog. He wants his personal property back. He wants his property back. He wants his grandfather's ring back that he says that you have. Is that right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. When she gets the dog back, you get your personal property. Do you understand? Other than that, you get nothing.
It's already gone.
Now, good. So it's already gone. So then all I have to do is I have to dismiss your counterclaim, because that you're not getting back. If she has your grandfather's ring that you said has so much
does,
sentimental
but
value to you, that's
have
gone,
receipts.
along with your other stuff. Now, I don't believe he's going to give you back this dog. And the truth of the matter is, I think it's a good idea, because I think that there's something wrong with him. I think it's a good idea that you have no connection with him.
Me too.
Do you understand? And I think that you should get another dog, preferably smart, not a pit bull. You're not going to get this dog back from him. And if you do, he's going to be on your case.
I was planning
permanently.
on moving back to Portland.
Listen to me. He's going to be on your case, and there's something about him that's not balanced. I'm doing you a tremendous favor, because he is not wrapped too tight. He is one bottle short of a six-pack.
This is all
Pay
that he
careful
wants.
attention to me. Pay careful attention to me. He is one bottle short of a six-pack, and if you have something that he says he wants, he's never going to be away from you. So go and buy yourself another dog. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't want another dog. She spent 2 years of her life with me.
She's a psycho, and I've been dealing with this. She stalks me. She comes by my work 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning.
He's just doing this out of spite.
It's about her being crazy.
You can't be an adult to someone who doesn't want to be an adult themselves.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Shartza versus Myers. Step forward, please.
19-year-old student James Schartzer is suing his former friend, 20-year-old loan officer Matthew Myers, for vandalizing his car. Matthew says James tried to run him over. He is countersuing for money owed on a computer.
Mr. Schartzer, I gather from your complaint that you know the defendant, Mr. Myers, and it is your claim that he vandalized your car. The defendant says that he did not vandalize your car, that you were not in the car at the time of this incident. Some of your friends tried to run him over, and he merely placed his hands on the hood of the car because he was trying to protect himself. Mr. Myers says that you owe him some money for a computer and is counterclaiming. Is that what this is about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When was your car vandalized, sir? What date?
April 27th, 2002.
And tell me how it came about that your car was in the vicinity of Mr. Myers' house.
Well, it all started, I was hanging out with some friends.
I want you to speak up, speak slowly so that I can hear you, because I'm not holding it against you that you did not dress for court today. Just because they're wearing suits and shirts and ties doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to tell me the truth, right?
Right.
But I think that you can get a leg up if you speak up, speak from your diaphragm, don't swallow your words. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go.
On the night of April 27th, 2002, I was hanging out with some friends, and one of my witnesses, Susie.
Stop tapping. Don't tap.
One of my witnesses, Susie, had to go over his house to deliver a payment for that computer.
What computer?
The computer that we made a deal with where I put a down payment down. He put the other $500 on his credit card, and I was paying the monthly payment.
Susie was going to go over to his house to make a payment for you to him on a computer that he had put on his credit card as a favor to you.
Yes, ma'am.
We got that down?
Got that.
And why weren't you going to make the payment, sir?
Because at the time we weren't friends.
Why is that? Had you been late in making the computer payments?
No, I believe it was the first payment that was being delivered.
Okay. Go ahead.
And we weren't friends, and she had to go over there. So I let two of my friends drive her over there because I didn't want any altercations. And they went over there, and she went in the house.
You weren't there, so you don't know
No,
what happened.
I
But
wasn't
that's
there.
why she went over there in your car.
Mm-hmm.
Susie! So you went over there with a payment. How much of a payment did you go over with?
I believe it was $60.
What happened when you got there?
I walked inside and I handed Matt the payment. He was sitting on the couch by himself, and I was just talking to him because I hadn't seen him in a while. And then I told him that Rich, the boy who drove me, was out there, and he wanted to say hi. So he went outside with us, and he said hi to Rich, and he looked at the car, and then he was like, something like, give a message to James, and he started like kicking the side of the door, and then he walked around and started kicking the front of the door, yelling that he wanted his money. And so I was scared, so I jumped back in the car and we drove off.
He just started kicking the car?
Yeah, he knew it was James's, so he just...
Of course he knew it was James's.
So he like grabbed onto my shoulder and just started kicking the car, and then he walked around and jumped on the front and started jumping on the hood of the car.
What'd you do that for?
I didn't do it.
What'd you do?
This is what happened. She came over, I met her outside. I was talking to her, she gave me the $60. I thought it was $70, but she gave me $60, and then what happened? I'm nervous. And what'd she do? She gave me the money, and then I was sitting out in front of the car.
No, this is
I know, I'm sorry.
slowly.
No.
Why don't you do this?
No.
Go. Take a deep breath.
Okay. All right. We started to talk, and then she got in the car. Right? I'm nervous. Sorry. I'm sorry. And we started talking, and then I started getting mad because she said he wasn't going to pay the rest of the money because she owes me $500.
He wasn't going to pay you the rest?
No, that's what she told me because he owes me $500. I got it right here. And then after that, I don't know if he wasn't driving the car. He was in the passenger seat. And
Thank you for clearing that up for me.
Okay, sorry. And then I started yelling at her, and I was like, someone's going to pay this money. Someone's going to pay this money. And I was getting real angry. And what happened was she jumped in the car, and I thought they were going to back out the driveway. I was yelling at him. When he jerked forward on the car, I slammed my hands on the car real hard, and I went over to the driver's side and ripped the person out of the car. I was angry because they were trying to run me over. He took off real fast. That's basically what happened.
Let me see the damage to your car. I assume that at one time you were pretty good friends if you let him put money on the computer.
Yeah, we were friends. So
What happened to that friendship?
He's a con artist. That's what he is.
What?
He's a con artist. He uses people for money. He's suing me right now so he can pay other people off.
Okay. She says that he kicked the sides of the car 2 places and then he jumped on the hood. Is that right?
He picked the passenger side. He didn't touch the
Passenger
driver's
side only. The hood I got. The hood's no question. The driver's side is out because he didn't touch the driver's side, right?
Right.
So here we go, the driver's side. And the back he didn't hit, right? Just the driver's side.
No.
Back. Back. What are you showing me these pictures for? I have better things to do.
The taillights were...
What?
He kicked the taillights, and the taillights were out of line.
She just said kick us out of the car. I'm sorry.
Bert, is this the passenger side or the driver's side? Looks like the driver's side to me. Maybe.
Depends on which way the car is facing.
Yeah.
Is that 2-door or?
2-door.
Oh, I think it's the passenger side.
2-door.
This is the back of the car over here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me see your estimates, sir. What kind of car is this?
It's a 1989 Honda CRX.
Left door damage. Left quarter dents. Left to light. Left quarter. He only kicked in one place.
Before I was told that he went all the way around the car.
That's not what you just said,
He
right?
went on the passenger side, and the passenger mirror, and then the hood of the car, and that was it.
All right. Whole car isn't worth $3,200.
Yeah, it's worth $29,333. I got it right here in the blue book.
Okay. You still driving the car?
It's getting a new motor put in right now.
Well, maybe this will help pay for some of the motor. All right, now tell me about the computer.
Well, basically, yeah, my brother was there at the time. I put on my credit card with him.
How much do you owe him for the computer, sir?
$500.
So he still owes you $500?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And you can't dent his car, sir, in order to get your money. I'm giving him $1,500 for all the dents to his hood and the dents, because he's got bad dents to his hood where you lost your temper. No. You lost your temper, sir. Lost your temper. You were angry. You lost your temper. You got to pay for that. But from that, I'm taking away $500, which I'm awarding you on your counterclaim, which means I'm entering a judgment for the plaintiff, nothing on your counterclaim, because I'm setting it off the amount of $1,000. That's all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Martin versus Harrington. Step forward, please.
22-year-old student Dana Martin is suing former friend, 20-year-old student Robin Harrington, for the cost of 2 tickets to a Britney Spears concert.
Don't get comfortable, Bert. Have everybody sit down.
Okay. Have a seat. Don't get comfortable.
Right.
Have a seat. Have a seat.
Mr. Martin, you purchased a couple of concert tickets for Britney Spears' concert, and you say you bought them for the defendant who said she wanted to go. Now she changed her mind, and you say you're stuck with the tickets, and you want her to pay the $250 for the tickets.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. When is the concert?
21st.
So the concert hasn't happened yet?
No, ma'am.
And she said, sure, get me a couple of tickets. You told her that the concert was in Chicago. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right.
No, ma'am. I told her we had gotten tickets in February for the concert in Chicago, and there were really bad seats behind the stage, so I sent those back. So we said that we would get tickets to the concert in Indianapolis when they went on sale. And she said, purchase me 2 tickets, so I did.
Just a second. Did you know that the concert was in Indianapolis?
No, I didn't.
Where did you think the concert was?
In Chicago.
Is that what they originally told you?
Exactly. He didn't tell me it was Indianapolis until he wanted me to pay for them.
All right. Where are the tickets now?
They're here.
How many people are going?
4.
Did you try to sell those 2 tickets?
I tried to get rid of them, but I couldn't.
But those are real good seats.
Yeah, they're really good seats.
Put them on eBay. Somebody's going to buy them. You paid $250 for them?
Right.
And they're
I paid 100.
Go ahead.
I paid $170 for them, but I don't feel that I should have to exhaust myself trying to sell these tickets when we had an agreement that she was going to pay for these tickets.
Very good. Put them on eBay, sir. You got rid of the ones that were in Chicago because you said they weren't good enough seats. So you got real good seats this time?
We sent it. Yeah, we sent it.
Just a second. You got real good seats?
Yes, we did.
Put them on eBay. Case dismissed.
Yeah, this is case number 103 on the calendar in the matter of Veers Cooper versus Veers. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Tell me your first name.
Angela?
Angela. Person that you're standing next to is your guardian.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
She is also a relative of yours. Is that right?
Yes.
How is she related to you?
She's my aunt.
And the defendant is your adoptive mother.
Yes.
And she's also related to you in some way, biologically. Tell me about that.
She's my aunt.
She's another aunt.
Yes.
And I gather from reading the complaint that you've lived with a lot of different people. Is that right?
Yes.
And you went to live with and was subsequently adopted by the defendant, your aunt, when you were how old?
14.
How old are you now?
16.
And how long did you live with her in total?
Approximately about a year. Maybe a little less.
And it didn't work out?
No.
And ultimately you came back to live with your other aunt, who is now your guardian?
Yes.
With your permission?
Yes.
This case is about a settlement that you had. When you were a little girl, you were bitten by a dog. And there was a lawsuit and a settlement. How much was that settlement?
Settlement was $9,000.
And there were a couple of withdrawals from that settlement for some small items. Is that right?
Correct.
Way back when you were younger. What were those items?
One, I believe, was going to the dentist or the orthodontist, checking out what damages there was done after things had healed. And then the second time was to pay a back medical bill from when the dog bite happened.
And this lawsuit is about the remainder of that money, which was how much when you adopted her?
It was $9,000 when we went into the bank, got the savings, and put it into our name.
And in the year that she lived with you...
Actually, she lived with me a little bit longer.
How much longer?
We got her when she was 13, and
Okay.
she stayed with us until she was 15. And I went through a divorce, and I was starting to do a little bit of partying and wrong lifestyle for her. So that's when my sister came forward, and so I can get back on my feet again.
Ultimately, you took all of her money and spent it.
But I used it on her.
For what?
For clothes. When my ex and I adopted her, we weren't financially stable ourselves.
Then you shouldn't have adopted her.
Well, I did not want her to go into a
foster home or anybody else. We wanted to keep her into our family.
Then you didn't have to adopt her. You could have taken her. You could have become her legal guardian.
I didn't even think about that.
Well, I don't care what you thought about, but when you adopt a child, you assume financial responsibility of the child. You can't take her money. What makes you think you can take her money?
But I understand that. I've been making payments for her dentist because I am reliable. So I've been making $90 monthly payments for her.
You took $9,000 of her money. How much was her dentist?
For her braces and stuff was $4,000.
Okay. Now, you could have left her money in this settlement account, in the minor account where it was, left that money there, and you could have petitioned the court. You say, I need some of this money to pay a dental bill, because she needs orthodontia as a result of it. That's fine. And the court would have given you, in all probability, the ability to take out that money, $4,000. So you got 9, you take away 4, leaves $5,000. Then she would have had $5,000. What'd you spend the rest of the money on?
But we used that to get her school clothes and her accidentals that she needed.
You have to do that yourself. You're her mother. Once you adopt the child, you become her parent. This settlement money is her money. It's her money for her future. It's not your money to spend. Don't you understand that?
Yes.
Then why did you do it?
Because when we adopted her, we thought that money was ours, so we can use that for her.
Well, let me ask you this question. Who had she lived with before?
My sister.
This sister?
Yes.
Okay. And she had $9,000. And how long had she lived with your sister?
Until she was 13.
Fine. Did your sister take out her money?
No.
You knew that. She lived with your sister a long time. And she didn't take out money for clothes or incidentals or anything else. She paid for it.
But at the time, I also was married, and my ex insisted that we do that, and it's hard to say no. It's
hard to say no. You understood that Angela had lived with your sister most of a substantial portion of her life. She had this settlement money. The money was relatively intact. So all of a sudden, you adopt her. Quick, go to the bank, take out her money, and spend it. That's outrageous. I don't know what else to say to you, except to say that you're suing for the maximum amount of jurisdiction of this court, which is $5,000. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
You got it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's it.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I know I was in the wrong.
I just hope we can all go back to the way things were before.
I'm just glad it's all done and over with.
All I ever wanted is to put things back the way they were.
Good. Oh.
Yeah, this is case number 112 on the calendar in the matter of Moore versus Hightower. Thank you. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Moore, you and the defendant had dated, and according to your complaint, you made loans to him. One large loan for his mortgage, and then some small loans for credit card charges. Mr. Hightower indicates that you did pay this money, but there was never a loan agreement and never an agreement to repay you. Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
When did you start to date the defendant?
Several months after my son was murdered.
When was that?
March of 2000. Probably about 3 or 4 months after that.
What was the first loan for and when?
In July of 2000, Donald showed me a letter that, the mortgage company had wrote, which showed that they were going to foreclose on his house.
I'd like to see the letter. Now, where were you when he showed you that letter?
At his house.
Were you living with him at the time?
No.
I want you to tell me the exact scenario that came about when he showed you this letter.
Can I kind of tell you what led up to this, my frame of mind?
No. I don't want to know about your frame of mind. What I want to know about is the conversation, where you were. It's clear if you were dating him, then you liked him.
Right.
Also, based upon what you told me, what happened to your son in March, you were vulnerable. You were feeling slightly depressed. I understand that. However, this is still a situation where we have to deal with whether this was a loan or not a loan.
Okay.
So I want you to tell me where you were seated in the house, what the conversation was that led up to him showing you this letter.
Okay. I was sitting in the lazy boy chair, and he had all his bills right there, and he showed me the letter.
And he just took this letter and said, "Take a look at this."
Everything was sitting right there, and he showed me this letter because we were talking about how he couldn't, afford to, take me out to dinner, and he felt bad about it.
It was in that context that he showed you this letter. I can't afford to go out to dinner or whatever because I have all these bills.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I had a lot of money at the time because of the life insurance policy from my son's death. And I felt really bad, you know, because, I mean, he has these two wonderful children. One, she has Down syndrome, and she is a sweetheart. I mean, she's just so full of life. And I just couldn't see these children, you know, August 4th, they were going to foreclose on the house, and where were they going to go? I felt terrible. And I'm trying to be a fixer-upper. I was trying to help them fix the situation. I know that I get a lot of money back from my taxes just claiming one child. So I knew when he gets his taxes back, I mean, he'll get $3,000 or $4,000, probably more than I do. And in order for me to negotiate with this Equicorp, you know, place, I called, you know, them up and I said, well, what can we do to get this, you know, straightened out? And they said, well, this amount of money needs to be mailed. So in order to, you know, get him above water, I went and paid $4,500 towards it.
You have proof of that?
Yes, I do. This is a copy of the money order and the original.
Okay. Now after that, what did he say to you?
I'm trying to remember. This was a couple of years ago.
Well, you have to remember.
Your Honor, may I answer that?
No, not yet.
Well, he told me that he had other bills, and that wasn't really going to get him out of, you know, hot water because he was behind on all these credit cards. I mean, he had the banks, you know, calling him constantly. He didn't like to answer the phone because of that. He said, well, I can't pay you back right away. And I said, I know. I said, I don't need the money right now. I have the money right now. I said, but, you know, when you get your taxes back, I mean, just go ahead, you know, and give me some money. And you don't have to give me the whole thing. I said, you know, the next year, which was this year right here, give me the rest of the money, and that'll be that. And I said, you don't even have to pay me back the whole thing. It was over $7,000 is what it was. And I said, well, you know, if you'll just make sure you pay me, I'll accept the $4,000.
So you agreed that he would pay you back $4,000?
Not at that time. This was later.
So at that time you didn't talk about him repaying you the money?
Oh, we did. We did, you know, with his taxes, but we didn't negotiate a figure.
Okay. Well, when did you negotiate a figure?
February. I had wrote a letter to him, February 5th, which is right about tax time.
Could I see the letter, please?
And I was like, something was better than nothing.
Would you show this letter to the defendant, please? You recall receiving that letter, Mr. Hightower?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Good, thank you. When you received that letter, Mr. Hightower, what did you do?
I read it.
And after you read it, what did you do with it?
Tore it up and throw it in the trash.
Why?
Because when she did this, I told her not to do it because at the time, I was going through the separation divorce, also going through a custody hearing. I told her that I not know when I'd ever be able to pay her back.
Are you still living in the house that she...
No, ma'am.
Who got the house?
It's been put on a lot for sale now. I moved out the end of February of this year.
Why?
They foreclosed on it in December.
How many months did you live there after summer of 2000?
I moved out of it February of 2002 of this year.
Oh, so her money helped you stay in that home?
I guess, but also too my
What do you
lawyer.
mean you guess?
My lawyer also helped. My attorney knew what was going on. My
You had a
attorney
lawyer?
helped me. Yes, ma'am. When I was going
Lawyer
through
for the custody case?
custody,
And the
separation, and
divorce?
divorce, yes.
Did you pay your lawyer?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you pay your lawyer?
$1,500.
Do you still owe your lawyer?
No, ma'am.
So you took this letter and you threw it in the garbage?
Yes, ma'am.
That's a lot of nerve. You mean you didn't even answer her?
Ma'am, also, too, you got to realize a lot of things going on with her. One time she broke in my house just to show her brother my home through the kitchen and come back bragging about it.
So what?
The next time she went through my mail, took a credit card out of my mailbox.
Stop complaining. I'm asking you a question, sir. You get this letter, you don't respond to it, you take it and you throw it in the garbage. And then what you do is you justify those actions by little petty irritations. I'm asking you, if you couldn't give her back any money, and she clearly expected money over a year ago, why didn't you call her or write her a letter and say, I'm really suffering financially right now?
She knew I was.
How did she know?
She knew how I was.
What do you mean she knew? Were you in communication with her?
She knew that I was trying to raise 2 kids by myself.
Did you get custody of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
And I suggest that you try to teach your children, Mr. Hightower, what being a person of good character is. You know, just because you're a warm body doesn't mean you're a father. Anything can be a father. Dogs are fathers, cats are fathers, fish are fathers. In order to be a father, a human being father, you're supposed to try to teach your children to have a good moral character. Somebody was nice to you. And what you do is you take the letter, you throw it in the garbage without even a response?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do you think there's a difference between going through a separation and a divorce and having one of your children suddenly taken from you?
Both of them are very emotional.
One you can cure, one you can't.
And later today,
I was not that close to her. She sped up to go around me.
She's trying to get away from you. If she sped up, she would have hit you straight on. Duh.
real cases, real people. Judge.
Welcome to my new blog, and I am coming from Mumbai city, and he is a stadium on Modi Road, and he is Modi school, and he is very Sutiabaj man, and also he is meeting on India Gate. Is very functionable on the 4th on the Lord, and this is me, and this is Ayaz bhai. All right, okay, and is coming two mans, many come, and also I am reach out the 2%, and he's my blog coming soon, and our a new video coming today. My first blog. कैसे हैं आप सभी लोग? ये आ गए दो चूतिया लोग, इनको मैं बहुत पताता हूँ चुंगी में. तो हेलो एवरीवन, टुडे माय फर्स्ट ब्लॉग कमिंग. दिस वेरी मैन पुअर इज मैनी मैन पुअर, सो आई एम कमिंग टू द this place is very good, and his ball is and his ground ball is cracked, and I am also coming for and his masjid minar seeing, and he two person is very contacted to lady कैसे पटाएंगे, and this man is very fast bowler, so I am coming to the कांता चला गया. तो हेलो गाइस, कैसे हैं आप सभी लोग? टुडे दिस टू बॉयज इज वेरी स्ट्रिक्टली वालेकुम सलाम. He is very man, is very poor, and he is tonguey bunning, and this is this black bunny, and this my sleeper. This man is very sure, bad, poor, and this is Gau Mata Tati, and his man is a bottle लेके आएंगे बनियान पे पेप्सी की. तो दोस्तों ये लोग एक स्क्वाड बना रहे हैं कि मैच में कैसे जीतना है. तो दोस्तों आज हम आपको दिखाएंगे अपना ये कौन सा कॉलेज है जे DS इंटर कॉलेज फ्रॉम मोदी पार्क इंटर कॉलेज. जे मोदी जी की शक्ल बनी हुई है इन पे, और ये देखिए इसमें लाइट की फिटिंग हो गई है. यहाँ पर देखो ये बॉल खेल रहे हैं. तो गाइस ब्लॉग पसंद आए तो फिर लाइक कर देना. मिलते हैं और नए ब्लॉग में, जब तक के लिए धन्यवाद.